Hello everyone, I'm George from Ireland, so welcome back to my channel. And behind me you can see the building where the most popular sport in the world was established. Here in the Freemasons Arms, this pub, on the 23rd of October 1863, delegates from 11 football clubs, most in the London area, convened. And they decided to thrash out the rules of the most common game. Because football in some form has been played since ancient Roman times. Something to do with a bag of wind, an invasion game, moving it this way, that way across a line, and how many players, was it 10 aside or 20 aside or what? Could you touch with your hands or not? Or could one player or could nobody? And things like that. And was there a goal or just a line? And could you tackle people with your arms? And all sorts of questions like, could you header the ball? Was shin hacking allowed, as in deliberately kicking people in the shin? And so forth. So they had to sort out what the rules were, because rules have been agreed informally in various localities down the centuries. But because of the Transport Revolution, that was no longer adequate, because in 1825 George Stephenson had placed a steam engine on rails, and thus the train was born. Although the French dispute that as a Frenchman who might have actually pipped him to the post. But anyway, in these islands it's widely believed that Stephenson invented the locomotive. So people could travel much further, much faster, and therefore they were going well beyond their barony where they resided, and the rules were not agreed throughout the length and breadth of Her Britannic Majesty's realm. So they had to arrive at common rules that would be obeyed by everyone within the United Kingdom and indeed overseas. Remembering at that time in Ireland we were lucky enough to be part of the UK. So in just a few hours discussion they were able to agree most of the rules, although some of them weren't finalised for a few weeks. And then they published it and everybody would know what the rules were. And there would be a referee, it would be 11 aside, the referee wears all black, nobody else is allowed to wear entirely black. You can be clad partially in black, but there must be at least one other colour, as in white, red, blue, something to accompany the black, so that you wouldn't be confused with the referee and know the referee is not allowed to play and things like that. And even the size of the ball, because I've looked up some of the FIFA rules, and the ball is meant to be within a certain pressure, and it's not a precise measure because you almost never get it on the nose. There's a maximum and a minimum and things like that for the size of the ball, and how the lines, how far apart they are, and that only the goalie's allowed to use his hands and within the goal area and so forth. But obviously they get amended from time to time. I remember in the early 90s, pass back to the goalie was forbidden because they were doing that and there was too much time wasting. So that the Football Association was established in there, the FA, and it's not Sweet FA. Sweet FA is Sweet Fanny Adams, which relates to a notorious little girl who was a murder victim in the late 19th century. Not that she did anything wrong. I mean, her notoriety is only that she was the luckless victim of a barbarous crime. Football is sometimes called soccer because of association. Take the socia, bit of association, or socia and soccer, and that's why in the United States, Republic of Ireland and Australia it's known as soccer, because of course where I come from, football often means Gaelic football. In Australia it often means Australian rules football. In the United States it means American football, but in most of the world it means that. And interestingly, it's generally not translated into other languages. Okay, there's Fußball in Germany, but apart from that they usually just have a pronunciation of the words football. Okay, so that was the Freemasons Arms, and yes, it does have some linkage to the Freemasons, and they do meet there. I can confirm that. Have Christmas dinners there, for example. Although I think actually secret ceremonies do not take place in there. So the Football Association then set up its headquarters at Holborn Viaduct, about a mile north of here. They subsequently moved to Lancaster Gate in 1971, and then they relocated again about 2008, moved to Soho Square, where they are to this day. And obviously football associations around the world were established, and then there's FIFA in Zurich, Switzerland, which Sepp Blatter presided over for decades. And that has how football became very popular, and soon British immigrants, they carried this sport across the 7 seas with them, and it became planted in every continent. Well, anyway, that's just a little something about how football as we know it was established, because they all had to agree on the same rules if it was going to be playable when they're going far from home. And remember, it's a completely amateur sport quickly became a professional sport. The clubs all had rules. If you played for Manchester United, you had to be a Mancunian, and then you had to be somewhere in Lancashire, because Manchester's part of Lancashire. Eventually you had to be someone from England, from the UK, and they did away with that. Eventually you could be anyone, and they're all part-timers. What really popularised it is when they gave people a Saturday off. Up until this time, we worked 6 days a week, and there was only the Lord's Day for their religious observances, and the working class was so malnourished and overworked they couldn't be playing energetic games. And that's why the Old Etonians won the FA Cup for the first 3 years. You may have seen the celebrated film about it lately. Anyway, so that is Royal Masonic Hall, not a stone's throw from the Freemasons' Arms. So after a hard day of secret ceremonies, the Freemasons, they all lay down the craft and they go to this ale house to fortify themselves with a few fine ales. That's enough for me. I'm in the Covent Garden area of Londinium. Okay, toodle pip, all and sundry.